Rhonda, today I was hoping we could go over the infamous escrow problems. Uh, and I wish I had a glass of wine to go over this one. Next time I'm going to bring a glass of wine. Every time I even mention escrow, my head spins. As you know, people have problems with escrow issues all the time. And I'm here to tell you, after speaking to bank representatives repeatedly, getting clear information from them without understanding all this esoteric language is very, 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 very difficult. For the average attorney that listens to their client talking about, oh my God, they did this, they did that. Obviously, most consumers don't have the experience in doing this stuff. They might Google and AI and try to figure it out themselves. God bless them. Uh, but it is, oh boy, I don't know, even know how to describe it at this point. But the bottom line is, there is major issues that occur within the escrow, and digging into it, trying to solve it for the client is it can be a monumental task. But when they come talking to you and they sound like they're crazy, they probably aren't. Something probably happened. I love that case you had recently where they actually put the escrow payment as the principal and interest payment, and the principal and interest payment as the escrow payment, and they had been keeping records in that inaccurate fashion, which again, if you trying to explain that to somebody is absolutely insane. Uh, but
No, even the attorney in that case never understood what I was trying to explain to him when we found it. Because her payment was not right. And then when we went back and looked and we saw what the balance was, I was like, there's no way that this is right. And we had looked at it 3 or 4 times until we finally figured out exactly what they had done. And you're right, they were putting her escrow from her escrow. They were putting her taxes and insurance payment toward the principal and interest, and the principal and interest payment toward the escrow. Toward the taxes and insurance, which just totally messed up the whole balance. It messed up the interest charges and everything.
right, and I believe it was a small bank, so they weren't required to send monthly statements. All they were sending was the coupons. So this client had no idea what was actually going on. So again, in general, what escrow problems, somebody comes to you with an escrow problem, I know you want to dig into it and figure it out and see what they actually did wrong. But for the average consumer attorney that really doesn't nerd out or get into this sort of issue, what would you advise them?
Well, obviously, the first thing you got to do is get at least the last 2 escrow analysis, so you can see what they've done, and the life of the loan history. Now, if you don't know what to do with it, at least you have it. So when you talk to someone that knows what they're looking for, they're ready to rock and roll. They can look at it and see and try to figure this out. But that's where you got to start. You got to the devil's in the details. What have they done to the loan? And you've got to get the documents that are going to show that. And of course, we always like to see the mortgage statements, as many mortgage statements as the client can pull out. But they usually have those, and then the servicer has those analysis and the life of the loan history.
Yeah, and this is a great segue to sending the request for information. Um, you know, 2008, we didn't have that tool. They wouldn't respond to them. Now they respond a lot more. They might not give you everything you asked for, but at least we can get something from them. And usually sending that request for information, if the client tells you his story, you can document that as well and get a good notice of error in based on the client's story, and start diving into it and seeing exactly what actually happened on the case. And one of the big issues we see all the time is failure to make the insurance payment, failure to make the tax payment, and then a year later they're coming after taxes or insurance that they forgot to pay. The list goes on and on, the amount of escrow errors we see on a regular basis. But like you said, at least get the life and loan history, get as many mortgage statements as you can. What did I miss there? Life and loan history. Did I say that already? Last two escrow statements,
Yeah, the escrow analysis, if we could get those.
right?
And I would also say this, because a lot of people will send requests to their servicers, but they'll say, oh, well, I sent them an email, or I wrote it, where did you get the address from? Well, off my billing statement. Well, let's make sure you're writing it to the correct address. Let's not make sure that unless they say you can send it through an email, that you're not sending it through an email and thinking that you've properly made a request for information or a notice of error.
Correct. And again, the average consumer won't even know what that means. So, request for information, a notice of error, in a sentence or less is what, Rhonda?
So the request for information is when you're writing to your servicer and you are asking them for information about your loan. Hey, I need a copy of, I would like a copy of my escrow analysis. I would like a copy of the history of my loan. I would like a copy of insurance notices that you sent me. Those are examples. And that letter has to go to the correspondence address if they list it that way. The mortgage statement usually will tell you, or you go to the website of your servicer and they will list where the designated address is. The notice of error is when you're writing to your servicer and you're saying, hey, you messed up. You didn't make my insurance payment. You overcharged me. You've got fees on here I shouldn't have. Those are notice of errors. Same thing. It's got to go to the proper address.
Right. And a lot of times you can mix and match it, right? It can be a
Of course.
record. The substance of the letter is what dictates what it is. It's not what you call it. So you can commingle, so to speak, a request for information and a notice of error. In practice tips, you want to keep it as simple as possible. You want to make it readable, just in case somebody has to read it in the future. All right. So I think we went over escrow issues. Once again, get a competent attorney, get somebody that understands the rules for the escrow, and not only that, but has the experience actually handling cases like this. If not, depending on what the bank says, he said, she said, what Google says, you're just going to go around in circles for eternity. I think that's pretty accurate, right, Rhonda?
Yeah, maddening. People come to me in tears. I don't know what that, I've tried. I can't get anywhere. Well, let's see
Right,
what you did. And do you understand what you got?
right. Thank you, Rhonda.